Hiya and welcome to part 2 of my 3 videos on experimenting with paper. The first video, I'll put the link in below, was just testing out a few tools and techniques that I knew of, or things that come to my mind and I wanted to try out. In this video it's going to be a bit different. As a paper artist, I cut out loads of shapes and that from paper, and then I get leftovers, like pieces of scrap, and now I've kept these over quite some time now, and they have built up, and my plan was, is to be able to use these to be a bit more eco-friendly and recycle them and make my own paper. So I thought in this project this would be the great time to test this out and see some results from paper I have around my room. So I got this large bowl here with lukewarm water and a few cut off canvas pieces that I had in my art room, and then, as you saw previously, I was pulling off flakes and putting them into the paper, putting them into the water, and then mixing till it created like a pulp kind of texture. It reminds me a bit of like wallpaper paste, to be honest. So there's still quite a few bits of white, as you can see, and I put some more water in there just to be able to fill it up, so I can put the mesh in, which you'll see shortly. Here I wanted to change the colour of the paper, so I used some watercolours just to dash in a pop of colour onto the paper. I gave it a good mix, and then I had these lavender dried flowers and put them in there, as I wanted to create a flowery textured paper. Here you can see me now sieving the paper. It was coming out quite clumpy, and I did read somewhere that it is better off actually using a blender to make the pulp finer, but I didn't have a blender, so I wanted to give it a go, just doing it with my own hands. So you can see me shaking it, trying to level it out with what I've caught on the mesh, and then bringing it up and realising it's got to drain off from the bottom. So that's what I did there. And then once you've done that, I then got these just pieces of felt to drop out the piece of paper I've made out of the mesh, and leave it on there to dry. It takes about 24 hours, maybe 2 days, for it to dry properly, which I will show you in another video how it turned out. The next part, here I'm then again wanting to create a different type of paper, so I'm using the canvas boards again, as I have got quite a lot of these, and I've used the paint already to change the colour of the water. So again, I'm just ripping it up into flakes and mixing and creating a pulp. I've had these leaves hanging around my room for a while now, the leaf skeletons, so I wanted to use these and incorporate them into the paper. So here you can see me using the mesh to create the effect. I felt like I needed more paper here into it. There were some gaps, so I quickly put some pieces in there and left it a couple of minutes, just to make sure everywhere was covered on the mesh frame. It does take a while, this pulling the pieces off, but it was quite therapeutic actually while doing it. It's something different that I haven't done before, and I was excited to see the results. So here I've got quite enough now that I wanted to put in there, and try to spread it out as much as I can. This time I didn't mix it actually as much as the first one, looking back at this now, but it was just a test really, just to see. I mean, it could work out as a better texture, but this has got the leaves in, so I wanted to create something quite different. Here I am again, just spreading it out, make sure it's reaching every kind of level. Yeah, and this next one, I used some gold foil. Wanted to implement a bit of sparkles within the paper. I'm just sieving it around again, trying to make sure it's level in there as can be. This is very such a messy job though. I was getting the water absolutely everywhere. Here I was using another piece of canvas just to try and flatten it and squeeze some of the water out at the time, and if there was a gap I was just trying to fill it in with some of the pulp I had. Same again, I then moved the water out the way, dried up as it had made quite a mess, and put some felt down to then transfer my paper, my wet paper, onto there to dry. As you can see, I was trying to use the roller to flatten it and ended up ripping it a little, so it is quite delicate at this stage to keep in mind when you're making your own paper. This time I went back to using a bowl, just to try and see if I can mix it up a bit better. This time round I was doing something a bit different. I've got 2 Angora rabbits and I shave their fur from time to time, so I wanted to merge their fur into the pulp just to see how it binds the paper together once it's dried. So again here I'm pulling flakes off, and this time I'm trying to do them even smaller than the last couple of rounds, just to try and get them in there a lot thinner, to try and build up a bit of a more better fine pulp to add my ingredients to. I was also, as you can see there, I was dipping the canvas card printing because I realised it was making it easier to pull the pieces off, making it wet instead of having it dry. As you can see, I've added the most of the pulp in now, and I'm mixing it up as much as I can. You can see it's a lot thicker, and here I'm now adding in my rabbit's fur. I just thought it'd be interesting to try mixing it into the pulp to see what happens. I then had a bit of a problem here where I thought, oh, I'd have like had a bit of glitter, but half of the packet ended up going in. So as you know, when you have an accident you just carry on with it. So here I am just continuing stirring it. It did look a bit gross actually when I was doing it with the hair in there as well as the pulp. I felt like it needed a bit more extra paper, so here I am again adding more to the bowl. So once I felt like it had been mixed up, I got the water again and the mesh wire, and instead of placing it all in the water as I felt I kept losing some, I decided to place it all into the mesh and try and mix it in there. As you can see, some of the hair even got stuck on the whisk. It was a really messy experiment. Ended up getting some scissors to try and cut it off. So once that was sorted, I then started fizzing the water out, and I got a roller. I wanted to try and flatten it down as much as I could, being as though I was trying to create a thin piece. But I think I put too much pulp in there and it was actually quite thick. So while I was letting it dry in here, I then decided I needed to use that roller again to really compress the water out of it. So here you can see me just draining the excess off and then getting the roller and rolling it up and down into the paper on the weave. You can see it was flattening it down quite a lot, and you can already see the texture with the mix of the paper and the hair, and of course a lot of glitter. it just got everywhere as well, so it was just one of those wish you hadn't have done, and just kept it simple. Again, I had to dry off the surface, and I got another piece of felt to apply my piece of new paper onto. And there it is, and now we have to wait 24 hours for it to dry to see the results.